I welcome you back to this course, the Mobile Applications Development course with Android. And in this lesson today, we are going to look at how to build the first project in Android Studio. We are going to use Android Studio. And if you don't have Android Studio, I recommend that you go back to our lessons before that talk about how to install and use Android Studio. We're not going to take a lot of time. We're going to start right away. And when you look at our screen, we have the Android Studio welcome page. And with this one, you see that we are running a version of 3.1.1. And in the options that we have, the first option, this one, is saying start a new Android project. So we're going to take the first option. So when you click on the first option, it's going to take you to the create new project dialog. And in this dialog, we are going to specify in a few things here and there, and then we shall be ready to go to the next part. And at this part, first of all, every application has a name. And our first application today, we are going to give it a name of Hello World. So we're going to come down here where it is saying application name, and we shall give it Hello World. This means that our application is going to be called by the name Hello World. So this vary according to what you want. I may want my application to be something else, maybe menu. I may want to call it my name. I may want to call it Android, anything, any name that you think that you want for your application. Then the next part is we're going to set the company domain. And the company domain can be anything that you want your application to fall under. For example, I'm going to take, for instance, that I'm having a company called Example. So the domain that I'm going to set, I can make it to be maybe I can begin with a dot and then I say frank.example.com. So my domain is this, like my application domain begins with example.com, and then I can add on anything I want, or still I can decide to leave it as example.com, because we are only aiming at the domain, and the domain can be anything according to the company you're developing for, according to your own domain name that you use. And in this case, we are using example.com. So no application can be hosted on Play Store with such a domain name, example.com, because it does not exist. But every time we're going to use example.com, simply because these are demonstration projects. So if you want to build your application and host it on Play Store or any other distribution channel, you will need to specify the right domain. Then the next part is going to be to set the project location, like where do you want your projects to be stored. So what we're going to do is ours is stored in disk C, users, then you have the home directory, Android Studio projects folder, and then the application is called Hello World. So this Android Studio project is just a folder. It is not a configuration file or something like that. So it is just a mere folder that is going to be containing our projects that we are going to develop right now. So if you want to see our project, you have to go through this location, and then you will be able to trace the location of our project. So then we have the package name. The package name is always created or generated by the company domain. So every time you set the company domain, that will help you to set the package name. And the package name is sometimes called the project or the application identifier, because this helps us to uniquely identify an application, like globally, to identify an application from other applications. And applications that are having this very this very package name right here cannot be hosted on the Play Store. So it is only one that can have a package name that will be hosted on the Play Store. So what I'm trying to say is that it is like the ID for applications. If this is called com.example.helloworld, so we cannot have another com.example.helloworld in the Play Store. So we can decide to edit the package name from here, and you may want to edit it according to the way you may want it to be. So that is allowed. And then from this step, now we can click our next. So when you say next, we are going to go to another step. And in this step, we are going to select the form factors and the minimum SDK for our application. And first of all, we are going to choose phone and tablet because I'm not planning to develop applications for Android Wear, Android TV, Android Auto, or Android Things. So we are going to check the phone and tablet option. So after clicking that, now we are going to choose the minimum Android version that our application will run on. With this I mean that maybe I'm trying to develop an application that should run on Android 8 and above. So I have to specify that from this level. Or I want to start from Android 6 in that I can run a bit more, like I can run my application on a bit more devices. Or I want to start from Android 7, so it depends on the developer. And Android Studio gives you the option to choose the target SDK for your application. So when I go to this drop down and I expand, you realize that I have different API levels of Android. I have API 22, 23, 24, 25, and with their equivalent Android versions. API 22 is an Android version equivalent of 5.1 Lollipop. Then we have Marshmallow here, which is Android 6, among others. So we have also lower versions like KitKat. So you can specify what you want. If you don't know what to do, you can come and click on this link that says help me choose. And when I click on help me choose, it is going to show me the distribution of the different API levels, Android Studio versions in the market today. So when we look here, we realize that Jelly Bean, that is API level 16, has a market distribution of 99.6%. So you really want to develop an application that can use Jelly Bean, because if it is taking the market in such a way, then you will want your applications to be using. But this may not be the exact market distribution of Android versions in the market. So if you want to know exactly, you come on this link that comes from the Android developer site, and then it will show you a lot about the Android versions. So after that, you can click OK to go back. And then now that we have chose what we think is right for application, then we shall click next. And by default, an activity is like a screen layout. It is more of a JFrame in Java. It is something that you will always look at first. It is that first screen that appears every time you open an application. So by default, an application should at least have one activity. So when you're creating a new project, Android Studio always prompts you to create the first activity in this way. So when you look here, we have that add an activity to mobile. So we're going to come and choose our activity. As I told you that an activity is just a screen, the first screen that you will see. So every screen, every time I navigate through my application, I'm calling activity by activity. So we're going to choose our first activity for the application. And when you look here, we have the different designs of activities according to what they can do. We have the basic activity, we have the bottom navigation, we have the empty, we have the full screen, we have the Google AdMob, we have the Google Map activity. So I may want to use maps in my applications. I can choose the Google Maps activity. And for our case, let us choose the empty activity and say next. So now, as I told you that an activity is needed, so now we are going to give it a name. And in this I mean, every activity has a name. For example, it can be a login page, it can be the home page, it can be the register activity. So we need to give it a name according to what it is going to do. And since ours is going to have one activity, let us leave it as the default, as main activity. And then after main activity, so whatever you're going to name here is just the name that will be given to your Java class. Because an activity is going to have two files. One is the Java class, and two is the XML file for the resources. And that will be the layout that it is going to have. So right here, we're going to specify the name of the Java class, and then here, the name of the layout file, that XML file that will contain our designs here and there. So now we have created both our files for that. Now we can say finish. And when you say finish, this may take some long time according to the speed of your computer. It also depends on if you have ever used Android Studio before. It will be a little bit faster than it will be for now. But if you have never used Android Studio, it is going to be a little bit slower than usual. So it is always better you first do your other things as you let it to load. And once it is done, you can come back and continue with your development. Yes, so now every time you see your application, your development environment displaying this text here, Gradle build finished, and specifying the time it used, then that means you're ready to go. So now, this is the Android Studio environment, and we have already looked at the different components of the Android Studio. And if not yet done that lesson, go and do the lesson about the IDE of Android Studio. So now, this is the Java class right here, and then we have the XML file right here. So, but this is not the location. So if you want to know where they are located, you're going to come and expand the app tree. Then you expand resources, RAS standing for resources. Then I'll look for layout and expand it. And then my activity main.xml is right here, the file that is responsible for my layout. And then if I want to know where my Java class is, I'll go to my app and expand, go to the Java folder, and then I will look for the package name, which is com.example.hello world, and then I will expand my package, and inside there I have my class, the Java class right here. So now let us go to our layout and see what we have on the layout. When you check on our layout, we have a layout, and it is a constraint layout. We have very many types of layouts. We have relative, linear. So, and in this case, we are having a constraint layout. So we shall come across different layout types as we are advancing in the course. Excuse me. So now you will also realize that we have a text view, and a text view is a component of Android that is going to help us to display some kind of text on the mobile device screen. So it has different attributes like the width, the height, and in this we have the wrap content, and wrap content means that the width of our text view will always depend on the size of the words that we're going to use. So if I'm going to use like 20 words, so the width will always expand to make sure that the 20 words can fit. If I'm going to use 2 words, then it will always make sure that it is small enough for 2 words. So it is dependent on the size of the text. That's what we mean by wrap content. Then the other option is always match parent. If I decide to use match parent, Like if I change right here and I write match parent, so this means that don't mind about the size of the word, but start from the device's right to the left. So that means that it does not depend, so it is size independent of the word. So it will just start from this side and end on this side, just aiming at filling all the available space. So I would want to make it match parent for both. So I'll change it to match parent. And then here we see Android colony text assigned to hello world. So this is the text that we want to display on our screen. So to run this application, as we did before, you have to get a phone, a physical device running Android, and then you're going to come on this run button. So you go to the run button, and click run. So we shall see our phone being displayed here on the deployment target, and then we shall say OK. And this will take also some time as our application is trying to build on the physical device. Yes, so now we can see our application, it is launched onto our device, and we can see the text that we have specified to be hello world. So now that means that we have built and run our first application on the physical device, displaying the string hello world. Yes, so that is the first application that we have managed to do, and we hope to come up with very many bigger applications than what we have just come up with. So I call upon you to keep following the course, and you will become a better developer. Thank you so much.